Greetings and salutations out there. It's Dave Duford here at Duford Insurance Group, where I train and recruit agents across the nation to become top producing final expense agents, as well as selling Medicare annuities, both face-to-face and over the phone. I have the pleasure today of having a new friend on the interview here. His name is Mr. Julian Dickinson. Say hello, Julian.
How you doing? Hello, everyone.
Thanks for being here, Julian. So Julian, funny enough, reached out to me randomly on one of my endless supplies of daily content and mentioned that he wanted to do a conversation about his experience as an MGA, or if you're not familiar yet with the meaning of that, his experience running an agency with a captive organization. And of course, I pounced at the opportunity because you very rarely get kind of an inside baseball look at what it's like with working with, again, a captive company, one particular insurance product or suite of products from one company, and talking with somebody who's actually recruited agents, trained them, coached them, et cetera. So Julian reached out to me and said he'd do it. So why don't we start there, Julian? Kind of tell us more about yourself and your background.
Well, I'm from Ohio, OH. Someone listening or watching is going to say IO, hopefully. I'm a spoken word poet. I do vlogs, blogs, all that stuff. I got into insurance randomly, but I was in the industry. I'm still in the industry for about 5 years now. So,
okay. So what motivates? It's always interesting because nobody grows up to, dream of being an insurance salesman. Usually it's just kind of, you're out of desperation. We end up here, right? At least that's how it was with me. Well, how did you get into insurance? What motivated you here?
Ironically, anytime I talk to a new agent or I recruit someone, that's usually the first thing I say. I say, I didn't grow up. Everyone else wanted to be a fireman, policeman, Spider-Man. I didn't say, no, you know what? I'm going to be an insurance man with life insurance. Like that's not the case. Initially, I've got countless years of retail experience, and my ex-girlfriend, well, she's my girlfriend at the time, she recruited me because her cousin was in entry-level leadership. She was in it, and she introduced me to the idea. At the time, though, I didn't like the person running the office for whatever reason. He rubbed me the wrong way. I don't know if he was I think he was very condescending. A lot of times when you get recruited, they throw money at you and they say, look at how much this person made. How much did you make this week? And I was like, not that much, but ouch,
Right.
So, but a couple of years later, I was unemployed and just kind of looking, and someone reached out to me saying, do you know anyone who sells life insurance? And so I reached out to her cousin. And then I said, hold on, wait, are you guys hiring? And then I fell into it that way.
So it was just happenstance. I mean, there was just a timing element really with no plans. It just kind of happened that way. Serendipitous, as I say. Okay, cool.
Right.
So, I mean, was there any sort of, as an agent getting into the business, was there any sort of, I don't know, how can you say, motivation to work with that particular organization, or was it just, people in the biz, the company?
That was literally it.
Yeah, just kind of why not? No second thoughts or due diligence or anything like that.
No, I knew of him, and she didn't even work there anymore. And so I reached out to him. I asked him about it. I kind of got rushed along into it and swept with the current. And yeah, it was actually one of the best things that's happened to me.
Oh yeah, tell us more about that. How do you mean?
Well, just the getting into the industry in general. It's not something that like I said, you don't just wake up as a child and want to be selling or providing life insurance. And then even people who might want to do it, you typically think of your Progressives, your State Farms, if I'm allowed to name those on here, but you typically think you're in an office in a cubicle, clients are calling you, you answer the phone, and that's it. But this level and the amount of money potential really opened my eyes, and it changes you for the better as a person. It shows you what you're made of. It makes you stronger, makes you more crafty. They can't get over on me at a car dealership at all anymore.
Right.
So it really heightens and improves you. And so that's why I'd say it's one of the best things that happened to me.
Now, when you started with this captive agency, but by the way, guys, we're just kind of keeping it on the down low. You know, it's a 3-letter word agency, you know, about the most we'll say there. How did you get started? I mean, did you get started? So for probably there's some percentage of this audience that's brand new. They don't know nothing, right? So we're in the process of learning. We find in the insurance business, in many cases, you just join an agency to recruit right away, or you join an agency to sell. Usually it's recruiting over selling. There's an emphasis on that. What was the experience starting off like with where you started? What was the emphasis on, and what was kind of that process getting going? If you can kind of take us through that.
Well, that's an excellent question. So getting started, there's an emphasis on recruiting and sales. And I find that depending on the type of person you are, you kind of hear what you want to hear, but they throw it all at you. And it's very much based on faith. They want you to just trust the process, trust the process, trust the process. You don't need to know how everything works, but trust the process. Learn these scripts, see these members, do this. And by the way, you need to recruit. But in the back of your head, it's planted that, at least in the agency, in the leadership that I had, it was the goal is to get out of the field. And to get out of the field, you need to have a big team. And to have a big team, you need to recruit. Now, the drive was always sales. It was always sales, 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 sales. But once you switched over to leadership, then it's recruit, 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 recruit. They have meetings about it. They talk about how to do it. We'd had contests where they'd send us out to the mall on lunch, and we'd have to see how many people we could personally recruit, things like that. But as a new agent, they really just push production.
So not a lot as a new agent at this captive agency for recruiting your friends and family yet. Is that what I'm hearing?
So they say it, but really they focus on really focus on getting good enough to make money, and they've said this, an agent that makes money isn't going anywhere.
Yeah, I think there's some truth to that. You know, the old golden handcuffs, you know, the devil you know is better than the devil you don't know. You know, we find that a lot in this business, right? You got a good thing going, why give it up? You mentioned something earlier. This is something that I kind of try to teach my agents. So it's interesting from one agency manager to another. You mentioned faith. You mentioned taking things on faith. You know, I teach my agents that here's what to do and here's why you do it, right? But you don't necessarily need to know why something works, but you need to have, and many times you won't actually understand it anyway till you do it, right? And then you understand it through the process of experience. And I think there is an element of leap of faith to this. Do you have any comments on that? I mean, as far as the how faith kind of plays a role in success in insurance sales?
It's big. It's a really big element, especially, you know, I was fortunate enough to have come from several manager roles. So I had some unemployment money coming into it. So there was some pressure that was off. The biggest pressure I had was my own fear of failure and the pressure to succeed. That was my biggest thing. But for others, it's like, man, I'm used to having a steady check. I'm used to having whatever coming in, no matter how small that check is. So yeah, you don't know anything. You don't know anything coming in. Even if you came from another type of insurance, like a State Farm or another company, if you come over to the 1099 side, it is vastly different. And so you have to have enough faith to let go of whatever your pre-existing notions are, whatever you think you know, you don't know. You really don't know. And so once you've surrendered yourself to the idea that, yes, there are successful people, there are people doing it. I have seen the checks. I do see the checks. And you look, if you look at the person and say, you know what, Julian, he's a regular guy just like me. David, he's a regular guy just like me. I can do this if they can do it. You just have to have enough faith to be dumb enough and smart enough to just follow the direction and see how it goes. But if you don't have faith in the process, or if you have if you lose faith in your leadership, then you do whatever you want to do, and that's every single time how agents fail.
You know, it's funny, just as an aside, you know, I didn't really understand that coming into this business, the power of just seeing examples of success surround you. You know, I think that's one of the things that captive agencies do well, you know, is they exemplify and show examples of people who have done extremely well, making a lot of money, being very successful. Because there's something about seeing somebody who, you kind of romanticize this idea of somebody who makes $500,000 or $1 million a year and what it is that they are, and they're different people. Then you see them walk around, you know, they put, you know, one shoe on at a time every morning, do the same things you do, and they're not all that different from you. And it's kind of good to see that. It's like, oh wow, he's not that special. I mean, there's something special about him, but you're closer to being, possibly, if you have some confidence, you'll see it's like, it's just a function of time and commitment, you know? So any thoughts on that? I mean, I always thought, as I've learned in recruiting, you know, most of mine's in the virtual arena, there is something to say about having people come together, sit down, speak to each other, see examples of success, and really just show that it's possible in the living flesh.
No, you're absolutely right. It's tangible. You know, it's
Yeah.
tangible. Seeing that it's not like religion where, you know, you might have grown up Catholic, Christian, whatever you've grown up as. And then, you know, it's been something that was ingrained in you. Having faith in something new that's not tangible, it's almost just like when you're selling a policy. You know, you walk out with a check of something these people are never going to touch. They're never themselves going to see that money, unless, of course, you have a rider and, you know, terminal illness or something. But, you know, this is money they're not going to see. Their family's going to see it. So absolutely, you see somebody, you know, even as an interview, there's a lot of little tricks. Like a lot of agencies will make their managers buy whatever level manager they are. Some agencies make you buy like Mercedes or BMWs, so that when new hires pull in, they're like, whoa, look at all these expensive cars. And, you know, like our agency owner, he was going to buy all of the MGA's designer suits. He had a guy come in and measure us up and all that stuff. So it's tangible. You see these people and they're just like you. And one other thing too, I've been told this several times when I'm interviewing people. They'll say, you know, it's like young African-American, you know, people will come in, I'll interview them, and before they leave, they say, you know what? It's just really nice seeing another young Black person with an office and successful. Like, it's just really, it's exciting to see. And so it's almost romantic to see something like that.
Right. Interesting. So tell us about your transition from producer to agency owner, MGA. What was that process like?
So the transition was hard. At first, I'm going to say I was terrible. As a new agent, I sucked. I was absolutely, I don't want to say I was the worst. It's just, I was very hard-headed. I was the guy that came from 15 years of retail sales and very successful. Like, I was really good at managing, and I mean, I had it down. Like, I would just show up, do nothing, and be number one in my territory. That's how I had it down. So it took a while for me to take that leap of faith. And so I was terrible at it. Didn't like making phone calls. I didn't like, the only thing I liked was going to see clients. And I was terrible at appointment setting. And so eventually the way I ended up transitioning was I did take a leap of faith. I surrendered myself to trying it one more time. I said, you know what? The person who was my MGA at the time, he was like, he taught me a new process and gave me a new type of lead. And so I said, I'm just going to commit fully to this. If this doesn't work, screw it. I'll go back to retail. I'll crush it. I'll make my measly 40,000 a year. I'll be fine. And so anyway, so I got really good with that. So good that I won an award. There's a speech that's on my Facebook about it, like in front of this whole agency. And my father was there. It was great. It was great. And after that, I made so much money that even running regular leads, I'd gotten better at closing. I mean, it built my confidence up. So like from there, they figured, okay, this guy can make money. He can make agents money. And with no leadership training in this arena, they just kind of threw you in there. And I was like, I don't know if I'm ready. And he says, listen, most people aren't ready for the good things in their life. A lot of parents aren't ready to be parents, but they figure it out, stuff like that. And so it was a rough transition into, you know, being what they call a supervising agent, but I got really, really good with it. So
tell me, what's it like going from completely responsible for you and your personal production to now having to be responsible for other people's production and training them to hopefully go out and sell?
Well, the thing is, I like managing and I like teaching. I like coaching and training. And I've been there. You know, I was that agent that was hard-headed. I was that agent that would have my field days with 1-on-1, as we would call it, like one on Tuesday, one on Wednesday. I was that person who had to door knock all day. I was that person who anything. So me being able to say, listen, I know you're struggling. I sucked too. Yeah. Let me show you what I did, really helped. And I could see that it helped other people. Also, I really liked meeting. I really loved the people. You meet really good people, whether they stay or not. There's some really good salt of the earth people out there. There's some scumbags too, but I really liked it. I really loved it. Just for that element. The only thing that I disliked, but I understood the mechanics of the machine, is the way that company works is when you have an agent, when you have a brand new agent, you have to, and you should do this, but you have to put business in their name. This company doesn't do commission split. I didn't know that was a real thing until I left the company. I didn't know, like with Mutual, you can press a button and this person did 3 words of the presentation, so I'm gonna give them 5% of the, you know, there was none of that. So you had to give all of your business away. And a lot of times the average agent wouldn't last more than 3 months. So if you got a new agent in, potential or not, and there was a requirement, we call it a code requirement. So if I had to put $1,500, which isn't a lot, but if I had to put $1,500, $2,000 or whatever into this person's name, and then they quit, yes, I get an override on them and a bonus, but that production's gone. And that's happened a lot, where you have someone, they finally get in the car, you pull up to a house, and I'm thinking, all right, this person's got a daughter and a son, or I'll get this little bit of business. Now it's a big sale because, oh, you know what? My husband, I'm gonna make him get a policy. You just wrote 3,000 AP in this person's name. There's no commission split. And then the agent, he's like, oh, so that equates down to how much? I didn't want to do this anyway. Bye. and so
let me clarify here. So you're running the deal, you're training the agent, the deal's in the agent's name exclusively, not
Correct.
yours. So you're out there doing the hustling, you're doing the work, obviously training the guy, and
Correct.
Some of them will jet, and you didn't make anything. They made that money, and then
poof. I mean, you make, one of the good things about that company is there's such a vast difference between your level, your commission level and theirs, that the override percentage makes up for it. So like a lot of the new agents are going to start at 50 or 50 to 55%, which is deceptive, but that's neither here nor there. And then your percentage, depending on your management level, will be 60, 65, 70, 75, 72, stuff like that. So it's like, yeah, I'm making money on the override, and then there's bonuses available, but that doesn't make up for the fact that this agent who's supposed to know what they're doing, and they'll say, oh, if they're trained correctly, they're going to know. Yeah, there's fear, there's stage fright, but they'll go in there and they'll freeze, and you'll know it's a sale. So you're either going to let that sale walk, or you're going to save the sale and get your agent over the hump. And then another penalty, and that this is kind of my last agency's exclusive thing. If you had a new agent and you didn't code them, if you didn't put business in their name by the end of a week or two, you lost them to a whole nother MGA. So it was kind of like the pressure to do that. So it was rewarding, to finish the question. It was very rewarding to be a manager, and it kind of taught you to be on your P's and Q's. And if you care about people, it's great. But if you don't save money and you don't have, money in the bank or something like that, it's very stressful. You're going to have agents, they're going to quit, they're going to run off with money, and, and it's bad.
Question. Are top producers the best at training and managing agents?
Not always. I would actually probably say no. I would say no. Maybe it really depends on the mettle of that person and if they are trained for leadership. I know a lot of top producers who can't keep an agent to save their life. I was that way. I was, because there was no manual for a while on exactly what to exactly what to do and say, and how to keep agents, how to hold their hand and play nice, or whatever you need to do from somebody who came in from retail and now they're in insurance. And top producers, you have to have a very competitive, go, almost mechanical mentality. And for a lot of top producers, it's hard for them to slow down just to go back and help you keep up. So, I would say it's dependent on the person. I don't want to insult any top producers out there, but I will say usually no. And I dislike the fact that they're a lot of times pushed and encouraged to be an agency owner or an agency manager when this person just wants to put money in their pocket for their family.
Yeah, that's why I asked you that, because it's interesting, because I think management without much, the management that's not well trained thinks that just because somebody is an excellent producer, that they also must be an excellent trainer or manager. And it sometimes is the case, but there's many times it doesn't follow. Because sometimes my thought on this, and you can comment if you like, sometimes the best producers don't know why they're good. They're just good. They can't explain to somebody off the street with no experience why they do what they do. They just do it, and they get frustrated because it's like, well, I don't know. Why don't you do it? So I like throwing that out there, because there's people who are watching this that are thinking, oh, this guy wrote X amount. Well, that could be a good sign, but a couple of layers beneath the surface may tell you otherwise. Usually management and training is an entirely different skill set than, actually selling. And sometimes the best managers aren't the best producers.
No, you're absolutely right. You're absolutely right. Yeah, I have way too much to say about that.
You gotta be careful.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. There's too many, there's a lot of politics behind it too, because from the company that I work for standpoint, they feel like, okay, they have targets to hit. They have like growth bonuses and growth metrics that they want to push. So they feel like, okay, this person is able to write $10,000 in 2 days. So instead of them just being, they'll say the person's selfish. They want this person in leadership so that they can put some of that $10,000 in someone else's name, whether the person stays or goes. It doesn't matter to them. You know, they don't care. They're like, hey, you know what? This person, I was good. This person's good. Give them agents, give them people. And they really don't care because they're hitting their metrics. And then the upline people, they're getting bonuses and they're getting everything they need. And they look great. While this new SA or this new GA, MGA, they're struggling, losing agents and losing money and losing bonuses and stuff like that. So you're absolutely right. If it's not in you to be in leadership, if you don't know how to coach, train, if you don't have patience, you shouldn't focus on it. Focus on your money, your pocket, your whatever you need to. And if the only way to get a higher contract percentage is leadership, great. Get that higher contract and say, look, I don't want to train agents if that's possible. It's not though.
So the audience is clear. You are not at this company anymore, correct?
No, I left.
Would you be comfortable telling us the process that led to your decision to leave the company?
Yeah, sure. Without giving away too much.
Fine.
Because I'm sure eventually it'll get back, and I don't want. Well, let's see. So, all right. Ultimately, along with like having a leap of faith, right? There are things that you learn if you really care about your career. There's things that you learn, and sometimes if you learn things that contradict what you've been taught, especially if you get higher up, it's you either don't say anything or you say something and then you get kind of So first and foremost, I learned that because the company I worked for, the leads they were free leads, but they were not necessarily insurance leads. And they eventually introduced insurance leads, but each client from that I spoke to, none of them remembered how they filled out the lead. A couple of them remembered they clicked on an ad that led them to filling things out, and it wasn't insurance. It was like they wanted a free iPad or an iPod, and they filled some stuff out. And eventually we'd ended up where we were sitting. So anyway, so these people weren't insurance leads. These were like, I want to make sure that my child doesn't get abducted. These were like, I want a last will and testament, stuff like that. So hopefully that doesn't need to get edited out. And when we get there, a lot of people had coverage. So we were actually taught to do what we called, what was referred to as beating up insurance. I later found out that is semi-illegal. It's like called twisting. And so they would cover it up by saying to tell the people not to get rid of their coverage. He would say, always say, don't tell them to get rid of it, tell them to keep it, but educate them on what they have and why they need straight whole life. So that started rubbing me the wrong way because the things we were taught to say were incomplete. Like we were educated, I'd say now that I know more, I'd say that all the agents, the best agents I worked with were taught to teach people about 75% of the actual truth. So like, for instance, they want you to feel like things are one size fits all because the products are very limited, which is why I like being a broker versus being captive. They feel like, all right, straight whole life, extremely expensive term, and accidental. Those are the only things they offer. If you want mortgage protection and the person can't afford the expensive term, give them ADB. Now they have mortgage protection. But if the person doesn't die in an accident, then it's irrelevant. Well, they never taught us that there are products like from other companies that you get all of your money back at the end of your mortgage protection term if you obviously don't die. They didn't teach us there was a such thing as a CBO. They didn't teach us that for seniors there were products like an IULE. They'll tell you the disadvantages of an IUL, but they won't ever tell you, yeah, there's a locked in 20-year, rate where their premiums are going to stay the same for 20 years. And for this 75-year-old, chances are a senior graded policy is not the best thing for them, if that makes sense. So that's kind of a roundabout thing. So that stuff started really rubbing me the wrong way. New agents coming in, I'm training them, and they're asking really good questions. And I've just trust the process. But really what really pushed me to leaving this company and this group of people that I was with for 4 years, this family, was I'd lost trust and faith in my leadership. We had this thing about recruiting, and I'm trying to give you like the the short version, where basically, oh man, basically he was telling us that we needed to recruit. Obviously, we're, one level or like 2 levels below him. So you have to recruit, you have to build your deal. I'm very tech savvy. I'm a big computer nerd. I know how to do stuff that I'm a couple levels below a hacker. Like, I'm really good. And so we had a meeting that gave me an idea. I took this idea, ran with it, and I was able to out recruit this guy that he was paying $3,000 a month to recruit for him. That got us about 5 hires a week, and I was able to do it. So after being mocked, told that I didn't know what I was doing and all this other stuff, and told to just be quiet and follow along, eventually he apologized because I was getting like 6, 8, 10 hires a week. And typically when you recruit people, whether it's from an ad or personal recruiting, these are people that are under you. These are your agents. However, I didn't have enough managers to train the agents. Things were happening. And I'd asked him like, hey, look, my pipeline has like 40 people in it. Who's going to train all these people? Like, I don't want to lose agents. I brought all these people in. And then it was, well, you know what? I'm going to, you had this idea in my meeting. So my name's on the door. So these are my people, and I'm going to give them to all the other managers. And I was like, well, are they going to compensate me for it? No. On top of that, I want you to teach my wife, the new HR manager, how to do exactly what you're doing. I'm like, well, what if I say no? So, and I'm giving you a very shortened version. It turned into either you teach my wife or you're going to be dropped down to an agent. If I told any of the other successful owners, he name dropped, what was going on here, they would think it's unbelievable. And so, so at that point, I said, well, make me an agent. And he said, well, then I'll just fire you. And I said, all right, well, then we talked, squashed it, because his wife is just not as good with computers as I am. It's hard to teach someone. It's like, teach my wife how to speak Spanish. Okay. Like, all right. So, so we kind of fell out about that. He didn't fire me, but he demoted me like 2 weeks later, and not down to an agent, just 1 level lower. Took my team. He made some excuse. And so it's just basically some politics. Then he eventually said, because I stopped doing my recruiting, he was like, all right, well, I'm going to have the other MGAs pay you to do this recruiting. And, I would really like it if you help teach the training class, because our trainer is not that great. And so he said, I will pay you to do that. And I thought him and I were kind of coming back, but I never got paid for the training class. I went 2 or 3 training classes, and I came to him and I said, why haven't I been paid for the training class? Oh, well, yeah, you owed me for some MGA dues. I said, well, the debt was forgiven. So I don't understand. Maybe I'm getting too specific on this thing. I'll say that there were a lot of things that were fabricated. I'll say that because I'm sure you're going to have to edit some of this. There were a lot of fabricated things. There were things I didn't like. There was a lot of unethical decisions being made. As an MGA, I didn't like the fact that you pretty much had to pay to work there. We had to pay for recruiters that I was out recruiting. Like my recruiter had like one hire every couple of weeks. I was having 6 to 8 hires a week. Why am I paying $300 per recruiter at like the minimum? Why am I paying per week $300 per recruiter? Also, every MGA had to pay like $500 in recruiting dues a month. It actually got higher before I left. Not recruiting dues, I'm sorry, MGA dues. So the recruiting dues were like $300 per recruiter that you had. And you're supposed to split that down your downline. Contests, if there were contests that need to be paid for, your team was supposed to pay their stuff, like even the agents. But if they didn't, it was highly suggested, not mandatory, but it was suggested that when I was in management, all of my team had their buy-in. I made sure that I did this. So it's kind of like, this golden carrot being dangled. And if you didn't follow that carrot the exact right way, they take it away from you. It was like that. So basically, I didn't like a lot of the unethical practices. I didn't like having to pay to work there. I hated the idea that the comp I was on was like 75 or 76%. And then finding out that any other insurance company coming in, you could come in at 80%. And I had more things to offer. It was way better. And besides, like I said, the disputes I was having with the owner over recruiting and fairness and things of that sort, it was too much. And so, I parted ways. It hurt because I really loved those people. There are agents that reach out to me. I definitely even shouldn't have said that. But anyone I've talked to, they talk about, all the shade, how, oh, Julian's great. And now there's like rumors, oh, Julian works for Lyft. He's a fast food restaurant manager now. I saw Julian at the car wash washing cars. It's like, come on, like it's a little much. So
when did you set, so you're there 4 years before you tailored your resignation. I'm curious, this process of buying into it, believing it, fully commitment. When did you say in that 4-year process, when did things start to spiral downward? Was it right at the end? Was it when you started seeing that there were better commissions or there were better products or you didn't like the sales process? When did things start to change as far as your total, complete belief in that particular company's model?
That's actually like a perfect question. I'm very much a soldier type of person. If I am told this is the process, this is the way, do it this way, and I'm going to follow it to the letter, right? The problem, when it started really turning on its head for me, is when I noticed that someone had their thumb on the scales. Like we had a competition one time called MGA tryouts. It was a couple of years back. And this is where if you were selected, there was criteria you had to have to get selected. If you were selected, then over the next month, there were things you had to do each week. And then you would get this promotion. Now, I'd hit the criteria, so I was in the running. And then the very first week, I also hit the production requirement. However, like in my mind, I knew who they were going to select for that position. But since they'd made it a competition, if it's a competition and it's fair, I'm going to win. Like it's nothing. I'm going to win. So that very first week I got knocked out, and it was because at that company, you can't write friends and family. I had a new agent with me. We were running appointments, Didn't see any friends and family because I wasn't from that area. I'd moved to be there, like that state. And it was under the new agent, so that counted for me. It was not the new agent's family. We were in the inner city, and he was a young Caucasian guy from the suburbs. But what they did was, I'd spoken to some people after the fact, and they said, yeah, they told me to put in a controlled business mark on this production. So instead of me hitting 10 grand that week, it dropped me down to like 9,200 based off of that. And then there were several different, I have a million examples. So
this is a process. It wasn't just one thing that just totally surprised and altered. It was death by 1,000 paper cuts. I mean, it was a process of buildup over time in a different bunch of ways, is what I'm hearing.
Exactly. It really boils down to feeling like I was being lied to, or feeling like I was being manipulated. Things weren't fair. A lot of the contests that they run are really based on just driving production, which is fine. But like, even being told by the owner in a manager's meeting, listen, guys, these contests aren't always meant to pay out. These contests are meant to drive production. So like, he wouldn't pay out contests sometimes. In the last minute, he'd make a change. Last minute, I thought about it. I know this contest was running until Saturday. Big conference call. Today's the last day of the contest, and I really thought about it. It's not fair that blank, blank, blank. So I'm going to up it. I'm going to double the prize. And if you guys can hit this mark by the end of the day, then we'll pay out double. And of course, no one could hit it. They'd already hit the first mark, stuff like that. And that kind of stuff, even as a soldier, it's like, it's like, come on, like, I'm doing everything I can and I'm playing by the rules and I'm still losing. And that's when it started to really unravel for me.
It's fascinating. I really appreciate going into detail with this. It's just the culture of your agency. If you do what you say you're going to do as an agency owner or an MGA, it sounds so simple, yet it's so profound. And if you start rigging the game, if you start changing the rules, and you cause doubt to creep in to the minds of the people that, frankly, you're entrusted to take care of. That's how I look at it. My agents are my clients in a sense. And it's just, I'm sitting here listening, it's baffled, man. It's just sad, because, I mean, we're all human beings and we have value systems, right? And, we have ethical ways of looking at things, and there's no worse feeling than feeling like you're being taken advantage of, or you're being lied to, and what you're being told wasn't true. And it's just sad to hear, because they lose good people that way. And this is not just them. It's a lot of agencies operate that way. It's doing what you say you're going to do, playing by the rules, being open, transparent. It's so simple, yet so many people let their greed and their self-interest in the way of their people that really are responsible. You're, as well as all the MGAs, are responsible for your company's success, and to just abuse them is just, they get what they deserve. They lose good people, and it's just shake my head, man.
Believe me, I wish I was forced to stop communicating with some of the people, because in that conversation, in a conversation I had where I was threatened, he'd heard I would talk to another agency, like another company, and he'd said that if if I lose a shred of business off the books, or if any agents leave, when you leave, even though I didn't at the time, he says, like, I will sue you. Like, he threatened litigation behind it. And I was just like, okay.
Wouldn't that guy be concerned about why a core person in his company even had the thought of seriously leaving? How they respond to that. When I hear that, it's like, doesn't that even cross their mind? Like, where did I lose this important person in my team? Like, why are they even looking? You know what I mean? It's like, but now what are they concerned about? Threats, about treating you like crap? It's just, I don't know. It's just, I don't get it. I don't get it as an agency owner, like it's like putting the responsibility of your failure as an owner to take care of your people on you, on the other person, not you personally. You should be responsible for your business's outcomes. And when you do stuff like that, it's just sucks. Just
Well,
sucks.
that's another thing about the culture too. It's not just faith. They also preach like accountability, right? So they'll say, if you do something like wrong, you have to look inward. You have to look inward. But like if you do something right, think of the way I trained you. I trained you so well, and so I usually keep a very good air of gratitude, and I would always thank him because he did train me. Um, he did a great job. It's just, again, when everything started going awry, it was heartbreaking, and it was very little accountability until I sent my resignation letter in, and I started getting phone calls, and I got a very backhanded apology. It was one of those, I'm sorry that you I'm sorry that you feel I did something wrong type of apologies.
It's like,
it was one of those.
my wife hates when I apologize to her that way. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like it was I should, and he said I should have I should have thought about the fact that you're more sensitive or something. Like he called me sensitive in the apology, and I'm like, all right.
God, I'm trying not to get riled up here, but just the level of ego, and it's so funny. That's what it is. It's so simple to just apologize, take responsibility, take steps to fix problems, and follow through. And it's amazing when you make mistakes and you own them up and you fix them. People like see that and believe in you again, and sometimes even more so. It's just such an opportunity lost, I think, for whomever it was you were working for. And it sucks. Heartbreaking. I can begin to understand that. So kind of rounding down here, a couple last questions, and this has been great. I appreciate it. Very good perspective on the inside of the game of running a captive agency. Back to thinking about a lot of agents out there. Why don't we think about the agency? Because there's a lot of people who want to run an agency. They want to build a team. What advice would you give to those people who are wanting to build a team and want to find good people and then keep them? What advice would you give them
on building a team?
Mm-hmm.
Structure is very important. You have to, it kind of goes back to what you were saying earlier about producers being good managers. You can't teach someone to have style. Like you can't teach like your style of doing things, but if you have a foundation, a structure, a roadmap that is successful, no matter if you are like extremely exuberant or whether you're monotone, if you have a structure, keep that structure. So have a plan, have a roadmap, have something that you do every time you take a new agent out, things that you say, that I personally feel is very important. So even if you think you suck as a leader, if you follow these steps, you are more apt to keep agents, or it's a higher chance of you training successful agents. Similar to selling. You got to you do the same thing in every house. You're going to sell 6, 7 out of 10 people that way, or sometimes 3 out of 10, but this process works. So have a structure, have a process. If you are a captive agency, in a captive agency or a captive company, have money. You need to have money. You need to save your money. Because you will give away business. You will have to give away business. You're not going to see a penny of it sometimes, or you'll see a penny of it. So save money, have a structure, and I hate to say it this way, but you kind of got to look out for yourself. It's your career. You're 1099. You need to really have your own back. Your upline might have your back a little bit, but you cannot lean on that. You cannot lean on that, because if it comes down to a decision that was made, or if it comes down to it, I'm living proof. If it's the upline or you, the upline is going to look out for themselves. Even if you have a friend that's on another, MGA leg, that's fine, but don't give them anything. Don't just give away leads or give away agents or whatever. Be nice, be grateful, be gracious, but understand this is your business. Operate it like it's your store. This is your whatever. And really take care of your agents. You got to care about them. You have to listen to them. But keep yourself focused on you and your agency. So those are my key bits of advice, especially that save money piece.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good rule. All of us and running agencies and agents too. Cash is king, baby, in this business. Can't get enough of it. So, Julian, man, this has been great. I think my audiences really like this. This has been very candid. I appreciate you going into detail on all of this, and appreciate you being here, man.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, guys, y'all have a good one. Thank you.